Marcus Aurelius said of Plato that he who is discoursing about men should look also at earthly things as if he viewed them from some higher place, should look at them and their assemblies, armies, agricultural labors, marriages, treaties, births, deaths, noise of the courts of justice, desert places, various nations of barbarians, feasts, lamentations, markets, a mixture of all things, and an orderly combination of contraries. What he was saying is that you should look at life at a macro level, that 50,000-foot view looking down. I like to use as an example of what I'm talking about years I spent working for Walmart. And when you're doing this, whatever it is you're doing, maybe you're a manager in a store, and your goal is to get the freight stocked and straighten up the shelves and handle a customer complaint at the service desk. It's all those little things that go into everyday life running a business, managing a business. And if you're in that role, you can't really see that higher level perspective of ships sailing across the ocean and how a large company can make a huge difference in the way trade and commerce works around the world. You can lose sight of the things that are really impressive about what you're doing because you're so busy lost in the small, mundane aspects of being one gear in a big machine. But if you can step back and you can see the beauty of what it is you're doing, and you can understand the why, then even if there's some things that maybe you think are not very good about the environment you're in, even if there's things that are boring, things that are frustrating, things that are less than ideal, even if you work with people who don't have perfect character sometimes, even if the company sometimes doesn't quite align with what you want it to do, you understand that you're part of something greater than yourself, something bigger than just that small little piece that you're managing. And that can be a really enlightening, eye-opening sort of a transformation to go from focusing on doing something to focusing on understanding the why underlying what you're doing, to really have a sense of the context which makes all of the pieces feel meaningful, just like a jigsaw puzzle. If you open the box and all you see is a lot of random pieces that don't seem like they make any sense, you might not see any beauty. But if you can get all those pieces put together and then you can zoom out and you can see the whole puzzle, then you could say that's a really, really elegant picture that all of those pieces come together to make. And life should be viewed that way. When we look at life through the lens of, what did someone do to us? What did they say? What little petty social politics do we have going on today? And why do we have to deal with all of the shenanigans? We can get frustrated and we can get discouraged and we can feel disenfranchised. But if you step back and you understand that there's a rational reason why people do things that they do, even if they seem to be acting irrationally themselves, you can have irrational agents existing in a rational universe. You could say that predator animals hunting innocent, defenseless animals is cruel and ugly. And in a way it is. But if you step back far enough, you can also see that while it is ugly and cruel, it's also part of nature. And so you can say, because it's part of nature, it is beautiful. And because it's ugly and cruel, it's also ugly and cruel. And it can be both of those things at the same time. Things can be bad, and they can also be part of a greater good. And when you understand that, then you don't have this sense of paradox, this sense of contradiction, this sense of being frustrated because the world just seems like it's so broken and it seems like it's so terrible and everything is always messed up. But maybe we're supposed to exist in a sort of a chaotic universe. It is through all of those processes of trial and error and pain and joy and success and suffering, all in equal measure, just like the yin yang. You've got the black with a seedling of light, and you have the light with a seedling of dark. And it's all part of the same circle of life, which is the way that all things must flow through. When we understand that, we take that high level perspective and we see the macro instead of the micro. We look at life not as something which is good or bad in terms of our own personal perspective, but we look at something greater than ourselves as the standard by which we judge the beauty of our experience and of life. Then you can look at your own life and you can say, well, there's something about my life that's not beautiful right now. There's something about my life that feels broken, but you know what? The world is still a wonderful place. Life is still beautiful. All things in their place are amazing, and I'm really stoked to be part of life as it is, even if sometimes life doesn't go the way I want it to go. And that duality, that's the key to peace. It's one of the most important realizations you will ever have. Understanding that life is supposed to have duality. It's supposed to have contradiction. It's supposed to have the brilliant right up against the ignorant, the religious person right up in there with the man of science, the liberals and the conservatives, the warmongers and the peacemakers, and the list just goes on and on. At a macro level, everything is working exactly as it should. When you realize that, then there's not really any problems. Sure, I might have problems. I might have things that I want to deal with. I might have things on my to-do list. I might have things I'm trying to do which involve certain innate challenges. But I can end every day knowing that life is itself not broken. At the 50,000-foot level, life is not broken. If you go out into space and you're looking out from 200 miles up in the sky at the Earth, and all it is a round blue circle in space, all of the concerns we have about small earthly things like what's going on by the water cooler cease to matter. And it's just a pale blue dot. And there's not really any problems at all. That is a powerful message for why we should be creatures of peace, why we should try to extol ourselves and others to be gentle instead of angry. But even for those who can't find peace, even for those who can't get off the treadmill, even for the people who can't be creatures of peace, we can also take a few steps back and realize they don't have to align with our ethos in order to be part of a universe that is functioning well and is balanced exactly as it should be. It's kind of like that eternal war that's been going on in the Elder Scrolls Online between the Daggerfall Covenant and the Aldmeri Dominion and, well, I don't know, whatever the other one is. It's not really about the war. It's just about the fact that, you know, it's kind of how it works, right? You can't have a battleground if you don't have a few different sides to choose from. That's kind of how it is in life. You're supposed to have darkness and light side by side. People who take different perspectives and think that their views are a hill that's worth dying on. It's part of how it all works. And that's okay. But it's also okay for us to take that high-level perspective and not really get ourselves into the fray. Other people will fight and argue and debate endlessly. It's okay, though, to just say, you know what? I don't need to debate that stuff. Like, I don't need to really worry about who's right in some kind of political argument. I don't need to worry about people's wealth or status or virtue signaling or whatever it is that they want to post on Instagram to make themselves feel a little bit more validated. You see, I understand it's all fine. The great and the small alike all have their place in the circle of life. So why would I prioritize the great or the small over one another? Just let it all play how it plays. And that's what it is. When you don't have any objective, no criteria, you don't feel like the world has to work out a certain way in order to make sense, then just realize it all makes sense. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it makes sense, or I don't know how it makes sense. See, that's part of being human, right? Because we don't understand everything we see. So it's not, sometimes you see something, you think, well, that doesn't seem like it makes sense. But as a Stoic, you can also understand it's not that it doesn't make sense. And I know that. What it is it doesn't make sense to me because there's something about it that is beyond my understanding. Like, I don't understand all of the picture, you know, how all the different puzzle pieces fit together. So it doesn't make sense to me. But that doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. Of course it makes sense. I don't need to be able to explain to you how the universe makes sense in order for it to make sense, because the fact it exists is proof that it makes sense within the framework of the natural order that it is subject to. So when you realize you don't really have to give explanation for everything, sometimes you can just say it is what it is, and the fact that things work out the way they do is proof that they worked out the way they were meant to. Is that sometimes a hard cookie to swallow? Sure it is. Sometimes we want our lives to work out differently than they do. And that's also okay. We can still say, you know what, I feel like this sucks. I don't like something going on. But you know what, I also understand that I don't need to give up peace over that. I can have peace and not get my way. I can have peace and feel like things aren't going the way I want them to. I can embrace the fact things aren't maybe going the way I want them to. And I can also 100% have peace to understand that even if I don't like it, even if I don't think it makes sense, I can still know at that high-level perspective, it does make sense. And it's not a sign that the cosmos is broken or life is a bad thing or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is, right? When you realize you don't have to give an explanation for life, then it gets easier to live life, because if you feel pain, you just embrace it. You accept it. You acknowledge it. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try to evade it. Just as we know that we're going to die, and we know that that's part of the circle of life. And there's nothing wrong with trying to live long. and prosper. But that doesn't mean that we're going to live forever. I mean, in a way we do. In a way we do live forever, because we will, like a river, flow back into the earth that gave birth to us, and then new life will be born from the decomposed remains of what we once were. So in that sense, we will always be renewing our life again and again and again and again. Maybe that is a source of hope itself, because it kind of proves we don't have to get it right in this lifetime, because whether you believe in reincarnation or not, in the, religious sense, science itself kind of proves the circle of life doesn't end when we die. So we don't have to get it right this time. There's going to be a lot more playthroughs happening. So if we don't have a very good playthrough and the game winds up being over and we didn't get through all the content, well, I guess that's okay. Because there's going to be a bunch of other people playing the game too. And, in a way, we live vicariously through them. Because if I don't get through all the content, someone else in some other life probably will. So wherever you find yourself, always try to be at peace and understand that even if things don't quite seem like they make sense to you, all things work together for good anyway. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.